Okay, bike 4 in the battle of the singles. Next one I'll do is a DRZ 4S. But for now we're talking about the KTM 390 Enduro R. It came out last year alongside the Adventure. The reason I went for the Enduro is that simply I just thought it was a bit more interesting really. Strip bike, 9 litre tank, so not a huge tank, but 44 brake horsepower engine, 21 18-inch wheels, so it feels like KTM were taking it seriously. And for the person who wants a bike that's got trail capability but also has got maybe longer legs for the road, it seemed like a really good alternative to, say, a CRF 300L or a Vosges 300. Obviously, it's not got the cockpit and the cowling and the bigger tank, but you know, as a hybrid travel bike, the Enduro R, certainly at the price of £5,700, it just ticked a lot of boxes for me. So today I'm going to take it out the same route. What I'm interested to see is, will it climb and will it do the same sort of difficult track and trail as the out-and-out trail bikes with a longer travel suspension? Because this is WP Apex suspension, so it's not got the huge travel, say as a CRF. But will it still do it? And equally, will it do it but then also give the added benefit of performance on the road that makes those compromises on the trail worthwhile? So there's a lot of unpicking to do on this bike. I've got to be honest, this is the bike that excites me the most, just for the price, the performance, the package of off-road and on-road engagement. So I'm going to take this out, I'm going to get kitted up, I'm going to take you out for a spin and see how we do. 165 kilos I think it is, still wearing the standard Michelin Karoo 4 tyres, maybe like a 60-40 tyre, maybe a slight bias towards road. So we'll see how they do on that steep trail at the end. All right, cheers, bye. Well, stop. Battery charger. Okay, so we finally got it going again. I think it just been stood for a month or so and just lost charge, jump started off another bike. Before we jump into this first lane, I will say I did have issues with this bike to begin with. I think we all did, that fueling and that throttle mapping, which in fairness to KTM, they were very quick to remedy. They put a new map on it, and since then it's a different bike. It used to flame out and stall a lot of the bike. It was very infuriating, I have to say. And with that remap, it's a different bike. So yeah, it was a shame it came out with that flaw, but at least they did rectify it. I've got a car behind me, so I'm just gonna pull. See how it goes up. Heart rate. Now the issue with the KTM, it's a road biased chassis and a road biased engine, and I think there's a lot of speculation that it's not going to be any good off-road. And I've got to say, on that outing, it's not. That's really interesting. I think I was catching that heel, that side stand. It kept flaming out. I'm like just stalling. I've got to watch that. Just got to bring my foot a bit further forward. It's almost like traction control kicking in. Oh. You know, I'm going to give a really quick verdict here. If you're expecting this to ride like a 300cc dirt bike, CRF, Vosges, Rayu, forget it. Different ballpark, i.e. worse. I've done some adjustment on the suspension. I'm sure we could optimise it, but its ability to carry pace and keep movement on that section there with the rocks, you just couldn't do it. Yeah, and then just the engine, the suspension, just fell. To be honest, it fell down straight away on that first hurdle, which is a shame given the fact they've called it an Enduro. But well, I think it's in sticker alone that it's an Enduro bike, and so I would say if you're looking for that bike that's going to ride like a CRF on the dirt, but maybe fans on, bikes overheating, I'm overheating. It's funny, isn't it? It's really funny, like how the way a bike responds puts you in a different mood. I was really looking forward to riding this, doing this loop on this bike. It's the bike that excites me most for many reasons. That power on the road and the optimism that it was going to be best for everything. But yeah, okay. Let's find out what it is good at as we go along. See, it's not too bad. I can get down and paddle, not too bad. No issue there. It's drying out, the lanes are drying out so much. Huge transformation when I brought that CRF in the rail. My bike, I should say about that side stand cutting out, it has got the old side stand location on it. I think as they brought the bike through to market, the side stand was moved in front, or the mounting point was moved in front of the foot peg, and mine's mounted to the rear. It's a cast aluminium one rather than the steel one. That Adventure 390 Adventure that I raffled off earlier in the year, that had the front mounting side stand, and I think A, it looks stronger, and B, it looks to remedy that. Yeah. Power is what it's got though. It belts. And that WP Apex suspension, which is I always found great on the old 390. It starts to come into its own again on this kind of road. It allows you to cover ground with pace and also comfort and control. It's a really nice setup. I think the problem with the 390, with this one, unfortunately, is expectation. With the old 390, we kind of expected it to be a bit average off-road. It was a 19-inch front wheel, 17-inch rear, cast aluminium. I think 180mm travel, where this is 235. You never expected it to be good off-road, but it was all right. You know, I think it was better than we gave it credit for. This, with the right wheels, the right ground clearance and everything else, there's a higher bar of expectation, which really magnifies your disappointment when it doesn't perform in the way that it looks like it should. Just in comparison to that Vogue 300 yesterday, now obviously we're on an engine with more power, 44 brake or whatever it is, so a fair bit more speed and slug than that Vogue. But the difference there, again, it always comes down to throttle response. That's like a laboured dull response. Yes, it's giving me speed, but there's not that direct kick feedback between wrist, engine, back wheel. In comparison, I'd say to the Vogue and to the CRF, which it ultimately you're connected and dialed in, so you feel every rev build, you feel every ounce of pressure you put on the throttle making a difference to what's happening in the rear wheel. This is, it's a bit like that Rayu. Not as bad as that Rayu. It's better than it was when I first got it. Okay, I'm still trying to look for some positives here. A useful test maybe for you, but definitely for me, doing these back-to-back days, same route, it really emphasises where bikes are good and where some bikes fall down, even though in your imagination they excel. You know, I thought this bike was going to fly up that first lane, but compared to that Vogue yesterday, different league that Vogue. Where I think this bike is going to do well is on a track like this. Yes, very nice. It's sharper. It's more ready to race, definitely, than say the Vogue or the CRF. I think it's more akin in character to that Rayu, in fairness. It's aggressive, but it's that flatness on the throttle. You really got to come down the gears to get the engine to spin, and then it spins hard, like there. I mean there, fuck me, it's fast. You know, it needs revs. Like that Rayu, it needs revs. It ain't gonna give you any explosion if you're down down in the revs and high in the gears. You've got to be down in the gears and high in the revs. The problem there is though, that's the way it wants the engine to ride, but the suspension and the chassis won't allow you to ride it like that on the rough stuff, on the trails. So to me, we've got a slight mismatch in chassis and engine. The chassis can't keep up with the engine. We need this engine in a 690 chassis, I would say. I mean, bloody hell, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble down here on this. A lot of trouble. If speed is what you want, I think KTM is what you need. I'm going to hit you with a very early verdict on this. If you like the KTM, and there's no reason not to, actually, if you approach it in the right manner, and we'll come to it a bit later with the road section and the other trails, but the Enduro is not good enough as an off-road bike to justify not getting the Adventure, which is better as a road bike and as a travel bike. Bigger tank, bigger screen, bigger cockpit. I rode an Adventure the other day, quite briefly, but I loved it. I just love everything about it, its cockpit, its engine on the road. It had got a far broader spread of talent than the Enduro, minus the expectation with how it's going to perform off-road. Okay. Service interval 6,000 miles, which is better than the old one, which I think was 4,500. I'll say the price is really good. It's 5,762 for the Adventure, worth 500 quid every day of the week. Like the old one, the fan's always on. It's a little bit annoying. It makes you think the bike's about to blow up. Looks amazing, goes amazing in the right revs. Is it a trail bike? No, it's not a trail bike. It's a gravel track. It's got a higher bar than, say, that KLE 500 that I rode the other day. But it's not got as high a bar as a CRF 300, a Vosges Rayu. And I can actually say it's not got as high a bar as that CF Moto, which that first lane, that CF Moto eats up. That go up there in second, easy, open throttle. This was like a pinball. You felt like a pinball going down a very stone-strewn alley. Okay, let's not write it off. Let's remind ourselves of the power. I've also got a comfortable seat. I've got good brakes. I've got a nice gearbox. I think this bike punishes me for being a short shifter. I'm in 5th now, which is going to accentuate that boggy throttle. What I need to be down is to 4th, and then we start getting some pickup at 5,500 RPM. If I hold it there, part throttle, then go. It's in another league to the 300s, obviously, and I have to be honest, it's in another league to that Himalayan 450, which I spent a week on in Morocco a week or so ago. That bike had not got this mid-range to top-end shove that this has. I think that Himalayan engine is a little bit more refined, but this is more exciting. And it's why I'd probably say if you're looking for a 400, 450 class bike, let me put my visor down so you can hear me better. If you're looking for a 400, 450cc bike for the road, and let's be honest, a lot of people are, I think the Adventure R version of this bike has got a more refined travel engine, certainly at higher speeds than the Himalayan engine. I think this rewards speed better than that Himalayan. I think the Himalayan is probably a better chugging, lugging, bottom end pickup kind of engine, and this has got it at the top end. So I think you've got to pick your poison. For me, that Himalayan was fantastic up to about 65, and then you start realising it's quite a vibey engine. I just never happy at 70. This is happier at 70, but it's less happy at say 25 on in a tall gear. Very different engine. Like, you couldn't get more different engines than this and that Himalayan 450 engine. And I will say, if you're interested in trails, that Himalayan 450 is a good trail bike as well. We'll prove it in a couple of days' time, but that Himalayan 450 would have caught that lane. I think it would. Well, again, I'm trying here to marry my expectation and my memory with the reality of putting them back to back. So, as I say, this is as useful for me as it is for you, because people will say to me, what do you advise I buy? I get a lot of that now, like, oh, I'm thinking about a bike for this, what do you think? And I'd like to give people as accurate answer as I can, and these back-to-back days are helping me iron out my missed memories, let's call them that. In terms of power, in terms of this kind of riding, do you need more than the 28 horsepower in those 300cc bikes? I don't think you do. There is no game, because when you start accelerating into the power above 28 brake horsepower, you're kind of going too fast for these kind of roads, these lanes. You know, it's only if you start hitting the open highway and wanting to overtake. But I know a lot of riders who don't do a lot of overtaking. There's a lot of riders who don't use much more than 20-25 brake horsepower in a bike. They're on big bikes, but they don't use a fraction of the power. I think there's this misconception that these smaller bikes can't do it, that they're no fun, that they're flat, slow. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think the slowness tends to come from the rider, not from the bike. Ouch. Sorry about that. I'm going to take you down here. I'm going to aim for another trail. Yeah. Alright. I'm just going to tack this bit on now, just in case I forget to say it later. But for me, if you want a trail bike, get a 300cc trail bike. You know, whichever the other three I've reviewed. If you want a travel bike with a little bit of trail, little bit to moderate trail, get the 390 Adventure. This is lost in no man's land, unfortunately. It's not got the ability for the trails, and it's not got the protection for the travel. Now, they do sell you the Explorer suspension for this. I don't know how much it is. I think it's about £1,200–1,400. That's upgraded suspension for the Explorer, for the Enduro, and you can get it for the Adventure. And I get a feeling that this bike was always meant to, or needed to, have that Explorer suspension, the better suspension on with the more travel, etc., to justify the existence of the Enduro. Because with this road bias suspension, it's not an Enduro, it's not a trail bike, it's a road-based adventure bike without a fairing, with a beak and everything else, shouty loud orange graphics. So I think if you do like this bike, I think it's going to pay dividends to invest in that suspension, because then the chassis will match the engine and the visuals of this bike. I'm going to turn left here. I'm going to take you onto a trail. This is kind of a moderate trail with a little bit more of a twist in it. You might have seen it on the other videos. I'd be hoping I can get up it with not too many issues. These Karoo 4 Metzlers, a good tyre. I like them on the road. They've got a nice on-road level of grip and roll and balance. They don't feel like a knobbly tyre. I don't think they're the last word in off-road grip, but I think they're a good all-rounder dual-purpose tyre for this kind of bike. If you're not doing as many trails, you might want to switch to like a Mitre CO7 or something like that. Just bear in mind they are difficult to get on and off if you have to fix a puncture. And you know, I think the lack of tubeless, like now if I get a puncture, like, what am I going to do? Realistically, I don't come out with my levers, I'll come out with a kind of tyre foam, and hopefully that'll do the job. But if I was on a trip, I've got no centre stand. I don't know if there's a centre stand option for this, but I've got to get that wheel out, I've got to prop it up somehow, I've got to break that bead, which if I'm on my own sometimes can be difficult. and then I've got to get a tubing out and one in without nipping it, which is a skill in itself. It would earn me towards the Himalayan with tubeless, or a CF Moto 450 MT with tubeless. You can have fun with tubeless tyres. Julian, who was helping me in Morocco, he was on a loaner F800, I think it was, or an F900, and then I got a tubeless front tyre, which had got a rip in it, like a sidewall tear, and you couldn't put a tube in it because the valve was on the side. It wouldn't take sealing because it was too badly gone, so in the end he had to get a truck repair shop to put a patch on the inside. So it's always possible that you've got less options with a tubeless, but you've got more repairability roadside in the middle of the night when it's dark and rainy. Pulling back this pace and focusing on the talking, this is okay. It jigs around a lot, you can get a lot of movement. That throttle's alright. It's alright. I've got to be honest, that's the best I can say about it at the minute. It's alright. I've been on 3 bikes so far that are better for this, you know. Right, what gear are we in? Third. Let's get a second. Let's get this little section here done. Let's see what it's like here. Oh yeah. Yeah. Guys, this is a road bike. I ain't gonna bullshit you any longer. It's a fucking road bike. It's a road bike with some off-road look and big wheels. That's not built for fucking trail ride, not by in a million years. Don't let anybody bullshit you. And it's a trail bike. Everything you hit, you feel. Everything you hit, that you get deflected by. On that road yesterday, coming up that lane there, that's probably what I was aiming to make sure I recorded. I was in second, focused on where I was going. I was running the throttle open, letting the bike rev, letting the bike move and absorb, and I was going up that bike in control, comfortable, confident, sure-footed on a £4,000 bike. On this today, I was getting kicked like a mule. Takes a different stance, you've got to back your pace off maybe, but it doesn't allow. This didn't allow me to ride and enjoy it. It made me back off. It made it harder work. If you're a novice, you're going to struggle on this bike more than you would on the 300s. I think if you're an advanced rider, intermediate to advanced, you're going to get frustrated and quickly realise that there are better bikes for this job than this bike. Okay, next lane. That fan is on again. It's like my old 390. I'm going to say this. Is this new 390 better than the old one? I'm not convinced it is, you know. Because with the old one, it did what it looked like it could do. It was a great road bike with a bit of trail. This can't do what it looks like it should do. And there's a disappointment there. And I've got to say, I think in the engine in the old one was a bit better. Crisper, cleaner. I think you know what I'm going to say, so I'm not saying it. I'm not going to go and do that last line. Fucking hell, wing mirrors everywhere. Not going to go and do it. Okay. Fans still on. Fucking fans are always on. It's really disappointing, this bike. You just can't do it with any grace. Like, it's not in the same ballpark as a 300 trail bike, and maybe we were incorrect in thinking it might be. But it's not my fault, it's not our fault, it's KTM's fault. Enduro R, not an Enduro bike. Not a trail bike, it's a road bike. It's a good road bike, as I say. If you want a road bike though, with some trail, light trail, get the Adventure R. If you want a trail bike, get a 300 CRF Rayu. I mean, actually, I'll tell you what this does. It makes you think, when that Rayu's right, with the right power, that's going to eat that Rayu's going to eat this alive. Eat it for absolute breakfast. Because that Rayu came up there, well, from a chassis point of view. The engines are still a bit dull. This came up there terribly from a chassis point of view. And, if I'm honest, an engine point of view. The Rayu, when it's sorted, will be a genuine high performance, high end trail, rally, track bike. This is a crude pretender. I feel really deflated. I've got to be honest, because I love everything about this bike, the way it looks. Am I being too hard? You tell me. Am I being too hard? I'm going to look for positives. I don't think there's anything wrong with that exhaust location. I think it's great for luggage mounting. It looks fantastic. And that's your lot. Well, I'm going to take it back on road. I'm going to show you what it can, a bit more road bias stuff. But I think my trail days on this are done. And I think that in itself is the biggest testament to what I think about it. That I'm cutting short my day. I'm not doing that hard lane because I ain't going to enjoy it one bit. And you know what? I like to enjoy my trail riding. I can't do it on this. Cheers. What I find a little bit bizarre about this bike also is in off-road mode, which we're on now, which you need to put in off-road mode to disable the traction control and ABS, which is, how you're going to ride it on the trails. And that also gives with it a sharper throttle response. When you put it in a road mode, it brings in traction control and ABS, puts them back on, and softens the throttle. It's like it's backwards. Usually an off-road setting has a softer throttle to prevent, wheel spin or step out at the rear. It seems like they programmed it completely backwards. I don't know, I'm assuming it was by design that it was like that, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And I have to say, just changing the modes isn't very intuitive on this. You have to go into sub-menus, ride mode, press down, street mode. I'm looking down, what am I doing? I can do it on the fly, in fairness, which is, I think that's nice that I can put it in street mode while I'm riding. And actually that's softened off that throttle a little bit. Actually that's made it better for street. No surprise there. But why do I have to put it in some menus? Why do I have to scroll across, activate to do it? And then they let me do it while I'm riding, but I'm looking down and making 3 or 4 inputs to change it while I'm riding. Either make it easy to change whilst you're riding, or make it difficult to change, but not allow you to do it while you're riding. It's like they just can't figure the stuff out. But otherwise, again, looking for positives, I think it seems a well-appointed, well-finished, well-designed bike. It feels good quality. And I've got to say, the 390, my original bike, the 2020 bike that I've had on fleet for 5 years that I'm just about to sell, I haven't had a bit of trouble with it. In 8,000 miles, 9,000 miles, actually 10,000 miles it's got on it. It's had a lot of riders, had a lot of abuse, but it's ran like a Swiss watch, never let me down, just needed consumables. So this notion that these KTMs aren't reliable, I think, is not necessarily true. In fairness, the Indian-built Bajar bikes seem very reliable. And from an ownership point of view, I don't think it's a bad thing that India's bought out Austria. The Europeans, our Western nations, just don't seem capable, or arguably too greedy to run a company properly. They just seem to drive it into the ground and take advantage of the customers. The Indians and the Chinese seem to, whether I'm right or wrong in this, time will play out, they seem to have more respect for the consumer and what the consumer's been asking for. The European operations just seem very arrogant, and that's what's driven them into the ground, unfortunately. I hope I'm not padding time. I'm just trying to... I'm going through the debate in my mind as to whether I like this bike or not, but as I say, that debate is sealed by its ineffectiveness on the trails, certainly when they're challenging, because it unpicks any purpose for this bike existing. If it can't perform on the trails, you may as well get the adventure. You may as well get a CRF. 60 miles an hour, 5,000 RPM. Yeah, it's just under 1,000 RPM for every 10 mile an hour. So it's not revving too high. See, I briefly touched 70 then, and it felt like nothing at all. And actually, let's try and end up on a high here. That if you wanted to make pace on an adventure bike or a trail bike, let's pretend for a second, if you're wanting to cover ground on motorway and fast A roads, there is still merit for the 390 Enduro and Adventure. Most certainly the Adventure. I'm going to go back to base now, and I'm going to grab the DRZ and take that out. Cheers. Actually, before I sign off, I'm going to say that the DRZ is going to completely invert every statement I've made about this bike. It's going to be great off-road and terrible on-road, so we'll see where the compromise is best struck for people. Alright, cheers. Okay, so that's the KTM 390 Enduro R. I've got to say, disappointed. I was really looking forward to bringing this bike into this test. I thought it'd do really well. I thought it'd bridge that gap between trail bike and like something that could do road work as well. I think in a cold light day when I've ridden back to back and I was out on that road yesterday, this is not in that same capacity to me on those sort of rocky climbs and things, the more technical side of trail riding. And in a way, possibly this is an unfair test on the KTM. Maybe the test doesn't suit the bike capabilities, but that's the test I'm giving it. And I think on this occasion, in this test, it fell flat, to be honest. It wasn't fun to ride, it wasn't capable to ride on the trails. I think easy track, mid-style track, it'll be fine. And I think if you bought one and you want to buy one, I think as long as you're not pushing it too hard and expecting it to perform like a 300cc trail bike, I think you're going to be happy with it. I think it's going to perform well enough. And then equally on the road, it does blister along. I mean, it's got a blistering engine. The engine, when you're on tap, when you're open, is its strongest point, and then the suspension works really well. I mean, I guess that kind of concludes where we are with the suspension. The fact that the bike rides really well on the road means that it's never going to ride really well on the trail as well. It can't do both ends. It can't excel at both ends, and this excels on the road. And if you're after a bike to do mainly road work, do a lot of like pottering around your local area, or Sunday blasts and things like that with a bit more attitude, keep up your mates with bigger bikes, that sort of type of riding, occasional motorway stints, then either one of these or the Adventure. As I say, the Adventure, I think you can forgive the Adventure more sins because it's not pitched as an enduro trail bike, it's just pitched as an adventure bike. And in fairness, the chassis is good enough for an adventure bike. And if you give it the Adventure name and the cockpit and everything else, then I think you're going to be a lot more forgiving than you are with this, with the Enduro badge on it. So, yeah, sorry to say on this test, this KTM 390, it really disappointed. And it's definitely going to finish bottom of class, I think. Sorry, KTM. Cheers. Go on then. Just go on there.